hour is officially so boring that we are here before the 8 o'clock class. Officially and completely. Nothing else to do. Okay. Now, last time we had a little bit of discussion about the a good report in general. What are the points we should keep in mind? What are the things we should look at, like generally the sentences, the use of the space, the punctuation, and these things. The things which you look for in the report in general, like throughout the report, we should take care of these things. Okay, and then I gave you some common, you can say common chapters or common sections or common things which are in the report. Okay, and the first of them was what? Every report has, when you look at the report, the first thing which you see is what? The title page. Okay, and then anything you remember? Yeah. Okay.
Table of contents.
Table of contents. Okay. Anything else? Introduction. Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but yeah. What else?
Appendix.
Appendixes. Yeah. Okay, good enough. Okay, you can go and review what we have seen. Now, so first thing now we will start looking at is objectives of the report. Every report must have some objectives. You are writing the report to achieve something. Why are you writing the report? If there are no objectives, there shouldn't be any report, right? Okay, so let us look at okay, so one thing is what I have already mentioned before you start writing your report, or before you start gathering data or doing literature review or doing anything about the report, write down the objectives. Before you start doing anything about the report, write down the objectives. And I don't mean, okay, I've just thought about it. No, write it down in words, points. Okay, so you know exactly what you need to do. Okay, so the first thing is set the objectives before you start writing the report. And I don't mean just an idea, I mean exactly word by word what you want to do. Okay, note them down, so have them written somewhere, like I said, not in your mind, on paper, in a file, on your hand, on your face, wherever it reminds you. And keep checking on them till the last stage of the report. Okay, sometimes you get lost. When you start working on something, you get lost what you are doing. Okay. So, for example, you are writing a report about material testing. Okay. So you have set your objectives, and I am going to focus on these things. But when you go in the lab, so you have to prepare a sample. There are people from other disciplines as well. You are from electrical. You are from electrical. You are also from electrical, and you are from civil, right? Okay. So what do you do before you start your experiments?
First, we draw the circuit, and then we analyze the circuit.
We have a components.
Like
resistors, capacitors, inductors.
You are from the electronics section?
Elect-
Okay. So now you see you have to do something before you start experimenting, right? You have to prepare samples for exam, and you have to prepare circuits and look for components and so on, right? It may happen that when you start writing the report, you get lost about writing about these things rather than the important stuff for which you did the test. Okay, so you did the test for finding out the strength of a material, and you did the experiment for finding out the resistance of a material, whatever. So, but when somebody looks at your report, all he sees is what you did in the lab. The actual part in which I'm interested in, for which I told you to make the report, the actual part is half a page. And the other 50 pages are about these things. This literally happens. This literally happens. I've seen reports, even from people who are, who have done masters, so senior. Okay, when they start writing, like, I went to the market and I was buying this, and then we brought it in a, in a car. It was not fitting in the car, so we put it over the truck. These things. Okay, so yeah, you write about these things, fine. But your goal is what? To achieve your objectives. Okay, so this is what they are talking about. Once you write down your objectives, when you are doing your work, your actual work, the experimental work, the collection of data, literature review, whatever, keep them in mind. What are my objectives? Okay, am I doing something which will not satisfy the objectives? Okay, which is not linked to the objective. If it is, that means you are wasting your time. Okay, you did everything according to the objectives, but then when you start writing, production means production of the report, not production of anything, production of the report. Okay, so when you start writing the report, again go and look back at your objectives. So are my chapters and sections and appendices, are they linked with the objectives or not? If they are not, then you have a problem. Got it? Clear, everybody? Okay. So as I already mentioned, maybe you did the work which was according to the report, but when you start writing, you are putting too many things which are unnecessary, not important, not related to the objectives and so on. So this must be avoided. Okay, so when you are writing the objectives, I'll give you some more guidelines in the end as well, but these are the three things your objectives should address. Your objectives should answer these three questions. Why you are producing the report? What are you trying to achieve? Who you are producing the report for? The person. Why you are producing the report? Okay, so what you are trying to achieve and for who? Okay, and we already discussed last time what can be the reasons. Okay, what information you are covering? Are you covering information from the market? Are you covering information from a survey you did? Are you covering information from an experiment? Okay, so why you did this, for who you did this, and what you will present in the report. Okay, your objectives should answer these three questions. Clear? Okay, some bad examples. Okay, so they said these examples are not the objectives. They are not objectives. Okay, they are just explaining what could go bad, what could go wrong. So a report was meant to cover UK. So in the objectives they write, covering this for UK. UK is, now tell me, UK includes what?
Scotland, England, Wales.
I didn't part of it, right? But Wales, I think one of the Wales, South Wales or something. Anyways, okay. So the report was supposed to cover all these parts. This was written in the objectives. But when the report came out, okay, it only dealt with England and Wales. Okay. So although the objectives were for this region, see, the third part, the information covered should be for UK. But when they produced the report, they didn't look back at the objectives. So what they did, they missed something. Not something. Two countries, two entire countries. Okay. So the report was about planning of development and sales. So the company lost all the opportunities for development and sales in two countries. okay, because of one mistake. Okay, another thing, this is a mistake in setting the objectives. So this was a mistake in matching the report with the objectives. This is a mistake in setting the objective. Okay, so the report was supposed to be the report tried to cover the specification and the specification of a machine and the results of using the machine. Okay, the specification means the height, width, and standards of the machine, and the results are what you will get from the machine if you perform the experiments. Okay, so the report tried to cover both of them. Okay, so the objectives were not clear enough. Okay, problem here and here. Okay, information trying to cover too much. Too much meaning different aspects. And why you are producing the report, you don't know. Are you trying to tell someone about the specification of the machine, or are you trying to tell someone about the results, what will happen if you use the machine? Okay, so the objectives were not clear enough, and that left the users or the readers in confusion. What is this report for? Okay, so two bad examples, and obviously then all the other things are messed up as well. Okay, now some of you may, obviously not some of you, all of you have to go through your junior projects and senior projects and so on, right? So they are like sort of, or some of you inshallah will go for higher studies as well, masters and PhD if you are kind enough like me. So some of you may have to write research objectives as well. You are writing a research report or a research paper and so on, and this can be a part of your life as well. So objectives of the research must be very clearly stated. Okay, if you are writing research objectives, they must be very clear, and they must be what they mean here is they must be stated somewhere in the report that I don't have to search for them. And this applies to objectives of research or objectives of a technical report. Same. Okay. If somebody opens your report, he doesn't have to go through all the 100 pages to see where are the objectives. Objectives must be clearly in some specific section which is labeled as objectives. Clear and simple. Okay. The objectives should be formulated in such a way that the reader can decide whether they should, so they can decide after reading your report or your thesis that you have met the objectives or not. Okay, the objectives must be in the form of what you are trying to achieve. So when you complete the thesis, when you complete your report, okay, I can go back and check whether these points are achieved or not. Okay, I will give you one example, and this happens very often. Students are writing a report, okay, and the report is to design a bridge. Everybody knows a bridge, right? This is what we do in civil engineering. So the report is about designing a bridge. Okay, what they will write in the objective? Removing traffic congestion from this and this highway. So after you finish your report, there will be no traffic congestion, no traffic jam. So I finish your report and then I go to that highway and the traffic jam is gone. Yeah, faithful. You finish the report and you pray, give sadaqah, do lots of good. Maybe Allah will remove the traffic jam by miracle, right? But your report didn't do that, right? Your report, what is your report doing? It's designing a bridge. So when I finish the report, I see the design of the bridge. So I know the objective is achieved. Got it? Clear or not? So the objectives must match or conform to the end of the report. The end of the report shows design of a circle. The objective of the report is about design of a circuit. Okay, clear? Okay, so objectives must be corresponding with what you have produced at the end of the report. Okay, the objectives have to be measurable. Okay, and it may not be measurable quantitatively. Okay, like something which I can see, something which I can see with my eyes, or I can see in your report that you have achieved this. Okay, what can be example? So for example, you are saying that I am testing a new material. Okay, I'm bringing a new material, and with the use of this material, the strength of the structure will improve. Okay, so at your objective should be the improvement in the strength. Okay, but if you say my objective is to use the material in structure, for example, my objective is to use recycled plastic. Okay, my objective is to use recycled plastic in the structure. Can I measure it? When I finish the report, can I measure
Yes.
that I used recycled plastic? How is it?
In the process of the report, you should be testing. In the process of the report, you should be testing.
Yeah, but is the objective measurable or not? It's very vague, right? Okay, I took some recycled waste and I tested it,
Prototype, maybe.
but
Make a prototype.
a prototype. Yeah. So my objective should be what? You said it yourself.
Making it.
Making a prototype with the recycled material, right? Now it's measurable. I can see the prototype. Okay. Clear? Thank you. Time to think of an example. Okay. So if your aim is to make a prototype, okay, then your objective should say a prototype. Don't keep it general. This is what I'm saying. Don't keep it general. Make it something which anybody can see. Anybody can see that, yeah, okay, you promised a prototype, there is a prototype. You promised a software, there is a software. Okay, so objective should be measurable. Okay, yeah. Now something again, like I said, these things are general. These points are general. It should apply to any type of report. Research paper, your project reports, the report which you make for your client. These points will apply. But if you are writing a research report, then you may state your objective in the form of a hypothesis. And what is a hypothesis? Did you take the stat course? Anybody? Probability and statistics.
It's creating a statement that should either be proven right or wrong.
Good, good. Yeah, exactly that. Okay, so hypothesis is like a claim. I am claiming that my material will solve this problem. Using this material will reduce environmental emissions. So it's a hypothesis. Either it will reduce or not reduce, right? Okay, so it's a claim, it's a hypothesis. So in research, you are trying new things, so obviously then you are claiming. You are assuming that this will happen. Okay, if I use this technique, then this will happen. So this is a hypothesis. Using this material will do this. Using this technique will do this. Okay, so this is a claim or a hypothesis. So in research, you may state your objective in the form of a claim, what you are trying to achieve by doing this new experiment, by doing this innovation, what you are trying to achieve. So this is your claim, this is your assumption, right? That this will happen. Okay, so your report will either prove it right or wrong. Okay, either you improved or you didn't improve, either reduce emissions or you didn't reduce emissions. Okay, so this can be done for a research report, okay, or any research project, that you may claim that we are doing some innovation which will achieve this thing. Okay, so this is a hypothesis, and this can be done for the research reports. Okay, yeah. So the remaining part of they are calling it proposal, you can call it introduction. So once you have set your hypothesis, in the remaining part of the introduction of the report, you are telling the reader how you will achieve or how you will test your hypothesis. How will I test my claim? How will I prove that my claim is right or wrong? Okay. So if I am using recycled plastic and I am saying that it will improve the quality of structure, this is a hypothesis. So how will I prove my hypothesis? What will I give as evidence? Okay. So the remaining part of the introduction will test this hypothesis. So they call it testing the hypothesis. Okay. Another form of putting objectives for research studies is in the form of research questions. Okay. So a hypothesis is a statement. A research question is a question. So they are like opposite. They are opposite to each other. Okay. So hypothesis will be using recycled waste will improve strength of material. It's what? Hypothesis. Can someone convert it to a question?
You can ask, will this improve that?
Yes. Okay. So instead of using a hypothesis, if I use a research question, the question will be for the same problem. The question will be, will using recycled waste improve the strength of structure? Got it now? Okay. So they are same things, but the method of writing them is different. Okay. Got it? Okay. So in both cases, like I said, they are more prominent for, or they are more commonly used for research projects, okay, or research reports or research papers. Why? Because in both cases you are asking about something new which has not been done before. Technical reports are usually routine work. You are designing a circuit, you are not the first person to do it. You are designing a bridge, you are not the first person to do it. So there is no hypothesis, there is no research question. If you are doing something which others have done, there is no hypothesis, right? You cannot claim. You are not claiming anything new. You are not asking any question. Okay? Yeah.
We could ask, will the circuit work or will the bridge be strong enough to not fall?
But that's part of the design, right?
It's a hypothesis. We should either claim the circuit works or the bridge is strong enough. Maybe
No,
not
actually,
strong enough.
see. For example, if you are designing a bridge, we have standards, we have methods. Okay. Now, if you are testing a hypothesis, will the bridge be strong enough? That means, okay, there are methods, but I am doing something new. So it may work, it may not work. Okay. But if I am following the standards and the proper procedure, there is no hypothesis now. It's supposed to work. The traffic and the load and everything is part of that procedure. So if you followed the procedure and still asking this question, that means there is a problem.
But sometimes you follow the procedure, but there is only one thing or a small thing that we change that could change everything. For example,
Yeah, this is what I am saying. If that thing is there, yeah, go ahead, no problem.
the hypothesis.
Yeah, hypothesis research question there. If there is this small element, like I said, even in research, we don't do everything from A to Z new. There's only just one little aspect which is new, everything else is the same. Yeah, if this and that aspect is there, yeah, it can be posed as a hypothesis or a research question. Okay, but when you are following the procedure correctly and you are following the standards, then it's supposed to work. Okay, you collected the load like you are supposed to collect it, you applied the equations like you are supposed to apply it, then there is no hypothesis. In the end, if you or someone else proves that your design is wrong, it is against you, because you didn't do anything new and still your bridge or your circuit is failing. You are not good for the job, right? They will fire you. You come back in the class and you take the class again, and we don't mind. Okay. Yeah. So objectives, you know, you cannot mix things. Okay. Either you write objectives, either you write research questions, either you write hypotheses. Don't mix them. Okay. This is what happened last semester. Actually, last year it happened. I have already given you, you know, told you earlier. You have to write a term report as well. So this happened. One objective, research question. Next objective, statement. You cannot mix them. Okay. Your objectives can either be in the form of statements or question or hypothesis. You cannot put one hypothesis, one research question and one statement. It's wrong. Okay. So you can only adopt one of these three. You cannot go for all three of them in the same report. Got it? Okay. So you have to choose. Okay. Yeah. While you are defining the objectives, it is very important that you define the bound or scope of your research or of your work. What you will cover and what you will not cover. Scope means you will. I will only cover, like I gave you the example of the previous the example about UK. Okay, so their scope was entire UK. Okay, so they were covering entire UK, but they were not covering entire Europe. Okay, so my report will only cover Bahrain. It will not cover GCC. Okay, or my report will only cover GCC countries, but not all Arab countries, or not all Middle Eastern countries, something like this. Okay, so your objectives should clearly identify the information which you will cover in the report. Okay, and the limitations should also be identified. Okay, so scope is what you will cover. Okay, and limitations are what? The things which are forcing you to define the scope. Limitations are the issues or aspects which are forcing you to define the scope. Okay, so somebody may come and say, my report will only cover Bahrain. I'm doing a market study, for example, a market study about materials, engineering materials, let's say, and my report will only cover Bahrain. The client may say Bahrain is so small. You should cover more countries. Okay, and what do? You say yes, why not? And you make your life hell for the next coming years. Right? It happens. It happens. Because when you said, okay, I will, because my boss is saying, my client is saying, I will be a good boy or a good girl and I will cover, 10 other countries. But in covering 10 other countries, you need more time. Maybe you need more money to do the survey and go to those countries and collect the data. Okay? Maybe you need permissions to collect the official data from these countries. Okay? So these things are what? Your limitations. Okay? So your boss says, don't cover only Bahrain, cover Saudi as well. Okay? So you tell your boss what? You are only giving me 1 week to do this. So in 1 week I can only cover Bahrain. If you want to extend the scope, then give me more time as well. Okay? Or more money, or help me get the permissions from the Saudi government to get the data. Okay? Got it? Okay. So limitations can be in terms of time, in terms of finance, or any other constraints. Okay, they may be constraints upon you, company policy, government policy, and so on and so forth. Okay, so for example, I had a student group. They said, okay, we will do something about driver behavior. Okay, I think I told you my area is transportation. So they said we will do something about driving behavior. Okay, and they did something very good, which you can all understand. Use of the phone during driving. We all do that, right? Okay, so they were watching. So they said, okay, we want to see how drivers behave when they are using the phone. Okay, so I told them, why don't we, do simulations? Okay, you don't have the software. Okay, now for driving behavior simulation, you cannot just do it on a laptop. I have to have an actual driver who will sit inside a simulator and he will do it. Okay, so I told them, okay, we have these gaming zones, right? So they have these gaming zones with your car and car simulator and driving simulator. The kids play, and so I said, okay, we will use them. We'll ask a person to drive in that game, and we'll call them. Okay, but they said, these simulators are, they are for fun, right? So you have jungles and deserts and so on. They are jumping over the bridges and over the buildings and so on. Nothing is strict. Okay, so they said if we do it, not the actual environment, right? So then we dropped the idea. Okay, we focused on collecting the data from the road. Okay, so this can be another constraint. We can do it. We can apply a simulator, but the simulator does not represent the actual conditions. Okay, so this is like another constraint, another limitation. Somebody says, I want the driver's actual data. You observe the driver, in front of you. Give me a simulator which can, which can simulate the actual conditions, and I can give it to you. Okay. So again, scope of our research was observation based. That's it. Observation from the road. You cannot do simulation. Okay. So the objective should identify the bounds or boundaries or scope of your research, and boundaries and scope are dependent upon what? Limitations. And limitations about the finance, the time, constraints. Okay, sometimes the limitation is about your ability. Okay, use this software is very good, but to learn this software I will require 6 months. I cannot do it. Okay, or I don't have people who can use this instrument. I bought an instrument, but I don't have any people who can use this instrument, so I will not use it, obviously. This is what happens in the field. This is what happens in the field. If you go to companies, many cases they don't buy a new type of equipment or a new software because their employees cannot use it. It happens. Okay. If somebody forces them to use that equipment or software, they subcontract it. We will not buy it. I have 20 employees, they cannot use it. I cannot train 20 employees. I need it for this project, okay, let me ask someone else who is already using it. Okay. Common errors in the objective section are strategies to achieve the objective or motivations for the objectives are mixed with the objectives themselves. Okay. And this is again very common. Your objectives are 1 page long. They are not objectives. Objectives are short and brief statements or questions or hypotheses. That's it. Not more than 1 or 2 lines. Okay, and you don't have 20, 30 objectives. Up to 5 statements or questions or hypotheses enough, more than enough. Okay, so when your objectives are becoming too long, that means you are making this type of an error. Maybe you are putting too much of introduction, background information. Okay, so for example, you are writing about your objective is to do something for reducing the environmental emissions, the environmental pollution. So you are writing in the objective why environmental pollution is bad. This is not part of objective. Okay, or how you will reduce the environmental pollution. You are writing about that again. Not part of objectives. Got it? Objectives are we will do this. That's it. Why we are doing this, how we are doing this is not part of objectives. Got it? I will improve the strength of the structure. Why, how, not part of the objective. Okay? Got it? So if your objectives are becoming too long, you are mixing things which should not be part of the objectives. Okay, objectives are short, brief statements or questions. Okay. Okay, only exception is that maybe you are comparing between different strategies. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but you know, for solving one thing you may have different methods. Okay, strategy means method. Huh? Let us keep it simple. So for example, for doing one design, there are different methods available. Okay, for example, there are methods according to British standard and there are methods according to American standards, and you are comparing between them. Then your objective would say this method and that method and so on. Okay, or this strategy and that strategy and so on. Okay, so the objective itself is related to the method of the strategy or the strategy. Then fine, yeah, it may come in the objective as well. Otherwise, methods and strategies should not be part of the objectives. Got it? Yeah. You set up goals. So this is a very common term. They use it in business. I actually took the slide or the terminology from these workshops which they have for business leaders and so on. Okay, I attended some of them. So they were always talking about these. Okay, so your goals or objectives for your project or for your report should be SMART. Okay, SMART meaning how many words? 5. So you should cover, your objective should cover 5 things, and we already talked about some of them. Okay, your objective should cover 5 things. They should be specific. What are you trying to achieve? Okay, they should pinpoint exactly and clearly what are we trying to achieve. Okay, so it should be specific. It should be measurable, like you already mentioned. Okay, something which you can see in the end. Okay, he was trying to do this and he did this. Okay, something you can measure. So I was trying to design a bridge, I have the design of the bridge. I was trying to reduce the I was trying to increase the strength of the structure. I have the test or the equation to show that I have increased the strength of the structure. Okay, so it should be measurable. Measurable in terms of assets or values or whatever. They should be attainable, realistic. Something which is realistic. Okay, so somebody came and said 20 years ago that we will have vehicles without drivers. It doesn't look realistic, right? Okay, but now somebody told me that for the Sakhir campus, they are thinking about having some vehicles, the automated, the driverless vehicles inside the campus. I don't know when will it happen, but not now. It's a project. It's a research project. Okay, so for now it is attainable. 20 years ago, maybe not. Okay, so something which is attainable, you know that you can do it. Okay, something which can be done. Okay, so then relevant. Okay, relevant to your topic, relevant to your organization. Okay, they just gave some general terms. Okay, I'm just trying to make it more understandable for you. So relevant to your organization. Your organization is in the marketing business. Your goal should be about marketing. Your organization is in the engineering business. Your goal should be relevant to engineering properties. Okay, your organization is about medical profession. Your goal should be about medical profession. Okay, and time based. Okay, something which we don't mention very often in the objectives, but you should have it in your mind. Okay, because it is linked with attainable and measurable. My goal is to have the driverless cars, automated cars in the entire Bahrain. Okay, for example, when will it happen? You say 100 years. It will happen in 100 years, for example. You will wait for 100 years to measure it. You are giving me a timeline of 100 years. Is it practically attainable? I am giving you like an excuse. Don't bother me. Take this report and go. Come back after 100 years, you will see. And we pray to God that obviously after 100 years, He is not there, I am not there. Right? Okay? So, time based, it may not be written specifically in the objective that we will do this in 1 week or 6 months, but if it is not in your mind, that means you did not take care of it being measurable and attainable. If the timeline was not in your mind, that means you did not think about how will I measure it and when will I achieve it. Okay, so